I'm wondering what are current cutting edge research techniques that you're interested in and why.
Mm. I think almost you mentioned LoRA and QLoRA, and these are, I think, still my favorites, which is kind of funny because they've been around. I mean, LoRA at least has been around maybe for 2 or 3 years, but I do think it's still. I mean, I used it just the other day on the weekend. It is really my go-to for fine-tuning because it is getting me good results much more efficiently. I think it's maybe not cutting edge in terms of it's not super new, but it is still one of my favorite research techniques, I must say. So LoRa is basically where you approximate the weight update by two smaller low rank matrices, which is kind of like a neat, nice idea. But other than that, I think just thinking about it, I mean, I looked a lot at architectures recently, LLM architectures. What I like find interesting is like uh no, the word slipped my mind, the mixture of experts,
Oh
where
yeah,
you
cool.
have like a routing market mechanism where you don't use all the layers, all the fully connected layers. You
Yeah.
selectively choose some of them. That is an
And I
interesting
think it was
idea.
a
Yeah,
mixtural model where I first saw
yeah,
that
yeah.
late
Yeah,
last year, maybe.
yeah. I think there's just a new one that came out like a few weeks ago. Yep. I think we have that one of them. We have them in we have it in LitGPT too. Like but yeah. I have to double check. But yeah. So this is an interesting idea where I feel like we are taking it's still the same LLM architecture, but we are kind of like taking it to the next step. Another one I just saw the other day was skimming a paper where they did multi-token prediction, which was quite interesting. Where yeah, we talked about pre-training predicting the next token, so
Mhm.
always the next token. But then in that paper, what they did is they had one LLM, large language model had predicting the next token, another one predicting the second next token, and another one the third next token. So which is interesting because during inference, for example, but even during training, but mostly during inference, you can predict 4 tokens at a time if you have 4 of these language heads. So it's kind of like almost like a hack because it's not like new math or new, but it's kind of like cool because it's like with the tools we have, how can we put them together slightly differently to do cool things? And in this case, if you think about 4 large language model heads that you predict +1, the other one predicts +2, the other one +3, and the other one +4, and you run them in parallel, you get 4 times speed ups in
Mm.
inference because you can generate 4 tokens at a time, basically, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it's kind of like maybe not as quite as good as the other one, but it's like one of these neat little ideas where you can, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's kind of like a neat add-on almost. But also, yeah, I mean, coming back to the RLHF you mentioned, that is also something I'm really interested in at the moment. For example, direct preference optimization is also has been around for a year or so, but it's also a neat idea where you make the problem a bit simpler. You remove the reward model in that RLHF process because when you do that, you have to usually train 2 LLMs. You have the one LLM that you instruction fine tune with supervised learning. Then you have to train a reward model that learns based on your thumbs up and thumbs down responses. And then you have to train or update the first model with that reward model to get that fine-tuned model. And that is a lot of LLMs where you have to keep 2 LLMs basically in memory. And if you can make that a bit simpler, that would be nice. So in direct preference optimization, you skip that reward model. You don't have one. You just use basically the reward of the model for both, or you have the logits, the outputs, you use actually softmax or yeah, a score basically for the one model that you want to optimize, and then you have the reference model, and you take the ratio basically, and you say is this response better than the other, and based on that you can skip the reward model. You can use the model implicitly to compute its reward that you are using
Mm.
to update the model. And that is also a neat idea. It's been around for a year, and people, I think most of the models you find on leaderboards nowadays are using direct preference optimization, but I think it might be also because it's simpler. I just saw the other 2 weeks ago a paper where they did a more rigorous analysis, and RLHF with PPO is still better, like in terms of absolute performance. It's of course more work, but I find DPO is a nice, I would say, alternative. And I'm really looking forward to the Llama 3 paper because I saw in the blog post that they mentioned that they used both. So they used RLHF PPO plus DPO. And I'm really curious and hope they have included some ablation studies to see like comparing basically combination of both methods to only one or the other. That would be something I'm personally very excited about. So I hope we will see a Llama 3 paper. Yeah, and these are mainly the techniques. I mean, these are very, I would say, fundamental techniques, but they also almost kind of stood the test of time in a 1 year frame. So I think they will be around for a bit longer. And I think there are, like you mentioned, LoRA. It's an add-on of LoRA, and there are like all these cool techniques on top of it. But I think, yeah, these fundamental techniques, the vanilla techniques, they are still very fascinating. Yeah.
Very cool. And with the DPO stuff, is that what, I mean, once again, users of ChatGPT, I mean, the app or the web interface may recall that sometimes instead of asking for a thumb up or thumb down, ChatGPT will give you two options and ask you to choose one. So is that, are
Yeah.
they using the results of that for DPO, do you think? Or
I think so. So I don't think ChatGPT uses DPO. I think they might. I mean, we don't know. They might be
yeah,
still
yeah.
using PPO because they kind of invented it. But yeah, that's the same concept. I think like if you choose one or the other, it's basically the thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, where it's like one is preferred over the other. Yeah. So um, there's another method. It's I think Tversky-Kahneman optimization, where or Kahneman,
It's
Tversky or
Kahneman-Tversky, yeah.
KTO. Yeah,
KTO.
and there
Yeah.
I think they allow you to you don't need a reference. Sorry, there you have the thumbs up and thumbs down, where you don't need the reference. The RLHF PPO and DPO, they both have a preference. It's one better than the other,
Yep.
basically. It's like a ranking. So when also for listeners, before when we said thumbs up, thumbs down, we both meant, I think, the comparison of two responses. And the absolute thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down. If you don't have a reference, that would be the KTO, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.